Hey guys, thanks for joining me here today. So, I'm a big Star Wars fan, and I've also recently become a big fan of the Breaking Bad series. So, while pondering them both, I had a revelation. Gus Fring possesses virtually every characteristic of a proper Sith Lord. Subsequently, I decided to create a video in order to articulate my reasons for feeling this way. Unlike my other videos, which were simply done off the cuff, I put some real planning into this video so as to communicate my ideas as articulately as I can. Gustavo, or Gus Fring, is an enigma, a complicated, calculating dichotomy of a man who built and operated his empire in the shadows while playing the role of an honorable, socially conscious member of society. His origins are clandestine, though it is believed that he grew up abroad in abject poverty. Not even the brilliant Mike Ehrmantraut can unearth any information regarding his early life. Over the course of several decades, he built his sprawling meth empire through a series of ingenious machinations, displaying the patience of stone and the viciousness of an apex predator. Over the course of his rise to power, he demonstrated several key traits which are found in the most commanding Sith Lords from the Star Wars universe, such as Darth Bane or Darth Sidious. As such, it is my belief that in a parallel universe, a Force-sensitive Gustavo Fring would have made an excellent Sith Lord. Now, a Sith Lord is a type of Force wielder who's concerned with obtaining power at any cost, and they use the dark side of the Force as the instrument to acquire this power and establish dominion over others. The dark side of the Force is accessed via an individual connecting with and mastering their negative emotions, such as anger, hatred, and fear. While dissecting the framework of what makes a strong Sith Lord, I identified and compiled what I believe to be the 4 essential traits. Trait number 1 is intelligence. This encompasses both book smarts and street smarts. It is especially important that one understands how to read, manipulate, and deceive others, as this is how they exploit others into serving their will. As Darth Plagueis opined in the Legends book Darth Plagueis by James Luceno, you must see every living being as nothing more than a tool to elevate you. Trait number 2, ruthlessness. Ruthlessness is defined as the quality of lacking pity or compassion for others. A Sith Lord must embody this trait of ruthlessness in its purest form. This means they must be willing to stop at nothing to acquire power and control over others. They must be willing to sacrifice any personal attachments which distract them from their goals, and to destroy anybody who interferes with their ascension to power. Trait number 3 is a perpetual source of anger, but along with the ability to control it and master it. A Sith Lord's potential is unlocked through their connection to the dark side of the Force, and a being's raw connection with the dark side of the Force is accessed through negative emotions such as anger, hatred, and fear. As such, traumatic early life events which imprint an innate bloodlust and desire for vengeance can be greatly beneficial in establishing a reliable wellspring of dark side fuel. However, simply possessing an abundance of seething anger isn't enough. Just as a fast car requires a skilled driver to win a race, a Sith Lord must possess an exceptional level of mastery over their emotions and their choices to properly utilize their power. Otherwise, they'll eventually lose themselves in the mercurial depths of their despair and achieve nothing. As Darth Bane describes in the Book of Sith, do not succumb completely to your emotions. You are a Sith Lord, not an animal. Trait number 4, endless ambition. A true Sith Lord always craves more power and control, regardless of their current status. They are always seeking to break into new territory, to conquer and establish dominion over new beings, and to obtain more resources. As such, Darth Sidious tried to inspire his apprentice, Darth Vader, to take after Darth Malgus, a distinguished 7-foot-tall Sith warrior from the Old Republic era, who once stated, "I fight because that is what I was made to do, and the Empire is the instrument through which I realize my purpose. The Empire is war made manifest. That is why it is perfect." Sidious wished to instill the same lust for war in Vader, and as such, once gifted Vader a Sith holocron created by Malgus. In my opinion, Gus Fring demonstrated these 4 qualities in spades. For one, Fring was an exceptionally intelligent man, both by book smart and street smart standards. Assuming the rumors of his early life origins are true, He's a man who began his life with nothing. No money, no social status, very little opportunity for upward mobility. And yet, he used his business acumen to build himself into a multimillionaire independently of his illicit pursuits. Standing upon the shoulders of his own business accomplishments, he effectively established an alter ego as an honorable man with significant ties to the community. He made charitable contributions to the DEA, served on the board of a hospital, and garnered the affection of many friends and acquaintances by manufacturing a very convincing persona of compassion and empathy, all while keeping his tyrannical, murderous, authentic self completely camouflaged. This is reminiscent of Darth Sidious's rise to power. Sidious spent many years rising through the political ranks until eventually acquiring the position of Supreme Chancellor, and then, when the opportunity arose, converting that position to that of Emperor. In the many decades before finally declaring himself Emperor, he also had to establish an alter ego as an individual who championed the Republic's versions of justice, fairness, and compassion, and he had to convincingly sell this alter ego to the innumerable intelligent beings within the Star Wars galaxy. With this, he was completely successful, and nobody besides his master, Darth Plagueis, had even the remotest idea of his true persona, which is essentially a sadistic, conniving sociopath wishing to rule every system in the galaxy in an utterly fascistic manner. Next, the word ruthless is essentially a synonym for Gus Fring. As I recently stated, Fring established a social identity as a man who personifies the concepts of compassion and empathy, and his non-illicit friends and acquaintances afforded him the utmost respect and reverence. However, beneath the exterior of this apparent social paragon lies an entity whose mere presence would curdle a psychopath's blood. Despite one stating, "I do not believe fear to be an effective motivator," the authentic Gus Fring is a being who threatened to murder Walter White's son, wife, and infant daughter in order to prevent White from interfering with his methamphetamine production, as he feared the possibility of White turning Jesse Pinkman against him. The authentic Gus Fring is a man who brutally murdered Victor, his own loyal henchman in Breaking Bad, and Arturo, a cartel henchman from Better Call Saul, both with his own two hands. And he committed these brutal acts merely to send a message. He slit Victor's throat with a knife and forced Walter, Jesse, and Mike to watch him bleed out. He zip-tied Arturo's limbs together and then zip-tied a bag over his head, forcing Nacho Varga at gunpoint to watch his ally die slowly and painfully. He was truly a person who would not hesitate to eliminate anybody who might get in his way, friend and foe alike. Gus harbored within himself an ever-burning furnace of white-hot anger. However, at the same time, he possessed one of the highest levels of self-control imaginable. Being born into poverty might have been the initial catalyst to the seething, scorching fury he developed over time, as spending one's early days in poverty often creates a person who is disenfranchised, resentful, and bitter towards the world, especially towards those who were born with more than them. At some point, he befriended Max Arciniega, with whom he eventually co-founded the Los Pollos Hermanos franchise. As Max once stated with regard to Fring, "He rescued me from the Santiago slums. He made me the man I am today." It was at the time when Max had made this statement, which was during a meeting with Don Eladio and Hector Salamanca, when Hector, upon Eladio's orders, shot Max in the head, killing him instantly right in front of Gus, who was forced to watch blood spurt from his skull like some sort of macabre fountain. Obviously, this instilled within Gus an immeasurable desire for revenge against Eladio, Hector, and the rest of the cartel, and many people in such a position would simply be unable to contain their rage, let alone work with and answer to the individuals responsible for performing such a reprehensible act upon a close friend. However, Gus had the presence of mind and the self-control to refrain from impulsively acting upon his desire for revenge before the time was right. Instead, he worked under Don Eladio for many years, repeatedly rejecting instant gratification, and even potentially saved the life of Hector Salamanca when Salamanca had a stroke in his presence. Imagine how you would feel if somebody murdered a good friend right in front of you. Can you even imagine how difficult it would be to work under the people responsible for years upon years, answering to them, and even putting on a convincing show of letting bygones be bygones? Finally, Gus was a person who was never ready to quit his illicit endeavors. No matter how high his net worth climbed, no matter how often his life was threatened, no matter how terrified his enemies were of him, he was always ready to continue expanding his control. The desire to conquer, to usurp and eliminate those above one is very reminiscent of the Sith mentality. He thrived in the world of international drug dealing, a world where deception, murder, and betrayal were simply facts of life, as common and expected as taxes and rush hour traffic are to us. From my point of view, the traits I have mentioned and elucidated on here are ingredients of a recipe which combine to make a malignant masterpiece of a creation, an ideal being for the Sith Order. Thank you for watching, and I hope to come back with another video soon, hopefully a Star Wars based one.